Good day, everyone. So I'm logged into Teams, and I'm going to walk through a lot of what Jim just laid out for you. I am in my Teams environment. I'm in this particular channel here. You'll see we have OnePlan embedded as one of the tabs within this channel. I'm going to kind of maximize my screen space by doing that just for the purposes of this demo, but we'll reside in Teams the entire time. As I go through this demo, I'm going to show you this using 4 different roles. There'll be the project manager in 2 different places. There'll be a portfolio manager doing some of that what-if modeling and things that Jim was just talking about a minute ago. There'll be a program manager looking at things at the program level, and then there will be finally the executive looking at reports that Jim spoke of just a second ago before we started this demo. So those are the 4 roles as we walk through this. So I'm in OnePlan. Right now, I am looking at one of the various views here, and you can see we have this tree structure. So I have a portfolio. That portfolio, if I open it back up, has a program, and inside that program are a series of epics or projects. Okay, and I have a bunch of these different ones in here. I'm going to use this project in a minute. I'm going to flip my view just for a second to look at the project financial summary, just so I could see the roll up of that financial data. So now I've flattened it, it's just in projects for now, for the purposes of this. And you can see that many of these projects already have budgets, some have forecasts as well, and we can calculate remaining budget, any variances, and so forth. Other financial data that we might want to know. And I can look at that at the portfolio level, the program level, or here at the project level. So just a quick orientation to where we are here. Now when I dive into a project, think of this as the PM, and I've landed myself on the financials tab intentionally just for the simplicity of this demo. And in here you could see I've got a forecast, but what I actually want to do is go and look at my budget. And I want to make some updates to my budget. So this is that top-down scenario. So I'm going to use that grid here in a minute. But a few things to orient you. We can have different expense types in here. So the most popular would be OPEX, CAPEX, but any other type of categorization or GL code alignment, any of those types of things we can do here as well. That may tie into integration later. We can also change our date range. So I'm just looking at this year for now. This project resides in this year, but I could switch this to quarters or to an annual number and enter data accordingly. So whatever level of granularity that I want to go to, I have some flexibility there. I'm going to stick with month for now. Okay. And what I wanted to do in this budget is recognize that there's some other expenses. I don't know what they are. We don't need that part of it, isn't important, but I'm going to add them to my budget. So I've got $18,000, $14,000 worth of money here, and you'll see that the total budget, if I scroll across, is 402. Okay. That is also shown here in my details page. You will see, oh, sorry, I read the wrong number. So 576, I was missing some information there. Okay, so I have my budget, and that is increased from what it was earlier. I have my forecast, which was on another tab, and some other information. So I could see it here, but then that detail is coming from in here. Okay, yeah, sorry, there's the 576 right there. Okay, so as I added numbers, this increases. So this is my budget. Again, I can enter it at different date ranges, and later we're going to come in and use some of these other tabs, and then we'll do some comparing as a project gets into an execution stage. So back to my portfolio for a minute. Now I want to look at this as a portfolio manager. I've got my portfolio, I've got all these projects and this rich data. So I want to use financial analysis to drive how I select projects. So I have a few different options here. First, I'm going to switch my view again just to give you a bit more context to what kinds of data is here. This is my portfolio view, my prioritization view. You can see we've got prioritization scores. There's that budget information. We've also captured some benefits information and some strategic alignment scoring. I can turn on this column, and now I can start to manually move projects up and down the list to different places in the list to move them up in priority or down in priority if I'd like. Now what I want to do, though, as a portfolio manager is look at this in the context of money. Any of you who may have attended last week's webinar, we looked at this in the context of people. This week, we're going to look at it in money. So here we are. We've set up a budget target for 2020, and we just flattened it. We said we want to spend about $400,000 a month in this particular group of projects. And as you can see, our budget or our plan totals right now are almost 7.3 million. So we're way over budget. So what I want to look at as a portfolio manager, and I'm going to start at the bottom, and I'm going to say any project on hold or proposed, we're going to take out of this model, okay? And I just quickly unclick them, and you can see down at the bottom that it is adjusting my list. Now my budget is actually 5.8, and you can see some of these months are starting to get closer. Some are clean, they're good, and I can continue to work through this and say, well, you know what, we're going to have to go a little bit deeper to get to the number we want. We continue to move it down. Maybe we'll take out a couple of others here quickly, okay? And now I'm really close. I could fiddle with this some more, and when I'm done, I could save that scenario as a scenario that I want to review with management or with the team and say, are we good with this in terms of the timing and in terms of what's cut and what's in? The other option I have before I finalize this is maybe I look at some of these projects. I'm going to bring this one back in for a minute. My budget's going to jump up a little bit. That's okay, because potentially I could look at moving that project out. And now some of it appears into 2021, and it might help relieve some of my early months and the pressure on my budget. And I could move some other things around and see if that improves my scenario, and then save it and say, that's the one I want to review with the team later. I've modeled out a what if that gets us closer to our budget. Maybe we need to go back and look at the target and say, clearly we don't need all that money in the month of January. Can we move it to other months? But still, we're over budget and we still have some work to do there. So different options here that we can use the financial data that we've captured at the project level to now make some decisions over what projects we can fund, which projects we want to green light and go forward with, and their, the impact on the overall budget and spend of the organization. So having done that, I'm going to jump up here and grab a project. Now we've approved our projects. We're moving forward in the story here, and now as a PM, I'm going to capture some actuals, and I'm going to talk through that a bit, and then show you how you can look at those compared to your forecast, compared to your budget, and so forth, and make some decisions in the action side of this, in execution for a PM. So I'm back in this, I'm in another project, I'm back on the financials tab again, and right now I'm looking at actuals, okay? I'm down here on my actual screen. And I've just gotten word of some actuals that have come in. So I incurred an expense, I'm just gonna put it in other for now, in the month of July, and it occurred again in the month of August. We'll figure out later what that is. Maybe we'd want to have a comment column or something of that nature to sort of give an additional explanation. Maybe we also had, we know there was additional software we needed to buy in September. So I've quickly captured that information right here. For capturing actuals, there really are three scenarios. One, you could do what I just did. You can enter in that data manually. The invoice is here on your desk, and you want to be able to track it. Number two, the resource data, you'll notice none of that's been entered yet, is we can pull that from the timesheet system that we have here, or from task updates, or potentially from actuals that were captured in Microsoft Project or elsewhere, and we roll those through, and with a rate in the background attached to that role or to that resource, it can funnel to here as an actual. And third, and that was Jim's slide just a minute ago around integration, it's common that clients will ask us, well, can I get these actuals from our financial system? It is our book of record. What I want my PMs to do is to see the actuals, understand their impact on their budget, revise their forecasts, and make decisions regarding the execution of the project. I don't want them to be entering financial data that's done elsewhere in the proper book of record, and we don't need to. So in those situations, we can leverage the tools we have to go and pull that financial data in and have it appear here so the PM can then act on it. The final point I'll make just here really quickly is you'll notice these columns are grayed out, or they're monitored, because in this project schedule, there isn't expected to be any tasks in those months, so there really shouldn't be actuals in those months. Now what I want to do, just to fully understand this, if I look at actuals compared to budget, and now you'll see I have some reds coming into view. My actuals for contracts in June was 5,000. I had budgeted 3. Now I'm under here. The combination's nice, so I'm good on the total. But just there's something to watch for in terms of when those spends occurred. And obviously back in June, I might want to have monitored that quite closely. Down here, software, is 10 over my budget in that month, and I didn't even plan for anything here. So those are definite issues with the budget. And these two items either occurred early because they were in the budget later, or there's something different, and I better be aware of that and I'm on top of it. So as a PM, I have my budget. I can do forecasts and compare to those as well as this budget evolves rather over time. And I have my actuals, either a combination of the capture of resource, time, and effort, or just typing the data in, or a pull from financial data from a financial system, or some combination of those levers to get this view that's actionable for me as a PM. The next thing I want to show, so I'll go back here and I'm going to grab a different view, is I'm going to go look at my program summary. Now I have a list of programs. One of them is that social networking project that I had in here earlier. And I simply want to show as a program manager a couple of bits of data here. I'm going to jump over to the financials. So here, the program said our total is 700,000, and they've moved that out over the life of the program, which is obviously longer than that year. And that's what the expected spend is. That's the planned spend for that. Now, if I go and look at it here, what I could see is that these are the total the projects that make that up and what their budgets are. And I could see that in my program budget is 700. My projects right now, their budget is 906. They're forecasting below that. That might be good news. So I do have an allocation in a negative, meaning if everything comes through to what each of those project budgets are, I will blow the program budget, and I should be very aware of that and perhaps make some decisions. Yes, the forecast is good right now, but the forecast may not be final. It may not account for everything. There's clearly a gap there that I'm going to want to monitor because the program budget is below what the allocation is in those different projects. So as a program manager, and likewise as a portfolio manager, you have these views as well, where you can see the different projects that are in your program and or portfolio and their impact on what you had set as a program budget or what you've been given as a program budget, and how are you going to manage that. So as those budgets update, this updates as well. The last thing that I want to show is sort of the end of this for the executive. What does the executive get to see? Oops, sorry. Quickly sign back in. Is now I've pulled up a portfolio summary and I have some interesting data right on this screen, and I can go and look at the financials of this information at the portfolio level. Maybe I want to go and drill through to the program level information on that same data. Now I'm looking at it a little more closely. Now I could come in here and see my financials. I could see some status data, some execution information. So we are leveraging the Power Platform here. You saw me log into Power BI. So that powerful tool to give us rich analytics. You can see the click through, the drill down, the analytics against all that financial data that we've been capturing sits right here. You could see where our spend is, how are we progressing, are projects green or not. In this particular scenario they are, that's good news. How things look cumulatively. So we have all of this rich data to service the inquisition or the inquiry of the executive and the kinds of information that they need to make those key decisions. And we're leveraging that. Started with the capture of the budget by the PM, went through the portfolio to make the decisions we needed to make using that financial data. We gave the PM the ability to manage their actuals against their budget, revise their forecasts, and make those in-flight decisions that need to be made in any project. Gave the program manager their view of the data and the decisions that they need to make, and rolled it all up so that the executive and leadership has this ability to drill through, view the data, make decisions, and see things in real time.